She's our guest speaker. Her name is Laura Powers, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about her. She's been over 20 years in her career. She works a lot with nonprofit sectors, with professional service firms. I met her, a couple months ago, and immediately just saw her as a professional and an expert in the marketing field. She works for Furia Rubel as their Chief Marketing Officer. She has received several awards over the years. I'll read a couple to you because I won't remember them. Multiple Summit Creative Awards, PRSA Pepper Pot and Web Marketing Association Awards. She also received, I was really impressed with this, the Communicator Award of Excellence from the International Academy of Visual Arts. Laura is here today to talk to us about the successes and the challenges of starting a business and running a business. Let's please welcome Laura Powers.
Well, when they told me I was speaking after Neen James today, I thought, blimey. Neen mesmerizes the audience with her accent and always has such great things to say. But that's okay. I got my Philly girls. I have a Philly accent, so we're all good. So I have a lot to tell you and a short time to tell you in. Everything I've learned from starting and growing a business comes from doing it myself and also working with a colleague very closely. Her name's Gina Furia Rubel, and that's the organization I'm with now. Dean referred to her earlier, and she is a wonderful colleague. I do actually refer to her a number of times through this presentation. And also from working with probably over 200 businesses in different stages of growth, both startups and very successful large companies and everybody in between. So there's 4 things I'm going to tell you about today: money, sales, agreements, and neglect. And there's no good acronym for that. It's like SAM or something, but that's the way I'm remembering all the things I want to tell you. Things that reflect what Neen said, and also things that I've learned along the way, mostly from failure, but one of my favorite quotes is, I never fail. I either win or I learn. So I've had a lot of learning experiences, we'll say. So there's another theme that runs through all of these things, and it does reflect also what Neen said, and that is women, especially in business, I feel, this is my opinion from experience, we need to have a network underneath us and around us that supports us no matter which stage we're in, whether we're hustling hard in our first days of business or we're up and running and successful. We need to have this web of family, friends, professional colleagues, people in different industries, and people that we trust to cry on their shoulder when things go wrong, which inevitably they will, and to share our wins and our successes, because we need people that understand how important those little successes and wins are to us in our business, because it's not always something that's easy running your own business. It gets lonely, especially when you start to have employees. And your employees are not your friends. Your employees are people you pay to be with you every day. It's really hard to maintain a network at that level of people that you can trust and rely on. So that's a theme that kind of runs through all of these things. And the first thing I want to tell you about is money. There are a lot of, unless you're in the financial industry in this room, there are probably a lot of people in the financial industry that are in this room that know a lot more about managing finances of a business than you and I do. They know about bookkeeping, they know about accounting, and they know about paying taxes. It's something that's really critical when you're running a business, is understanding money, understanding your risk tolerance for debt, understanding how much you need to pay out every month to manage your business, and how are you going to achieve the sales and the income for the services and products that you're selling in order to maintain that nut of expenses that you need. Writing it down on paper in a business plan with a budget will really help. If it's in your head, if you have a business plan, but it's in your head, it's nothing but thoughts. It's not a business plan. So documenting it on paper helps, and having an idea of how to manage money, how to pay taxes, what estimated taxes are. If you don't know how to read a P&L or decipher a general ledger, please find somebody that can help you. At least if you can't afford to pay them to do bookkeeping on a regular basis, just learn from them and learn the basics of what you need to do. Now, many financial people may not recommend this, but this is my advice to you from growing a business, getting into debt, painfully getting out of debt, but learning along the way. and that is take 50% of everything you earn, half of everything you earn, all your income, and pretend it doesn't exist. Put it in a bank account and use it for taxes. You will pay a lot of that to taxes anyway, and you may be using it to pay estimated taxes, which is great, but inevitably, when you're up and running a successful business, you'll have a year where you will have projected estimated taxes along the way, and you'll be paying into that and thinking everything's going well, but you're doing great, and you're really on a roll, and you'll have a banner year, and you won't think to call the accountant and say, is there something I need to be thinking about here? And the accountant's not going to call you and say, hey, how's your year going? Do we need to adjust your taxes? Because typically they're being paid and they're not thinking of you until you call them. By putting 50% aside, you'll have enough to pay the taxes and enough to be safe in that scenario, but you'll also start to save and have a nugget for retirement. And that is so critical for women in business. We don't do enough of that. I know I didn't do enough of that for a long time. But having that percentage, whether it's 15% or 10%, that can be your savings. You won't probably open a Roth IRA or develop a 401k for yourself, but that's something that we can rely on, and it's something for us to rely on because usually in business, we're only relying on yourself. Ain't nobody going to tell you to take your money and put it aside or to not take out that line of credit and spend the money willy-nilly. You know, you're accountable for yourself in a business. Nobody's telling you not to do it or to do it, even if you have a bookkeeper coming in every week. She's not going to say, are you sure you want to take that money out and use it to pay your car payment? That's up to you. So know your risk tolerance, put 50% aside, and I guarantee it will serve you in the long term. Second thing I want to tell you about is sales. So we have to do the accounting in business. We have to do the bookkeeping. We have to be aware of the taxes and how to do that. We have to do all that financial stuff, but we also have to be doing things like cleaning the office. And we have to, if we want office space, we have to be negotiating rental contracts. We have to be thinking about hiring employees and benefits and HR and what it means. Sometimes we have to think about OSHA and all those types of things. We have to do a lot of things in business, and one of the things we have to do is sales. We cannot run and grow a successful business without sales. And so I think a lot of people don't think about that. They think, you know, I'm invested in my business. I want to start my business because I want the autonomy of a business. I want the freedom of my schedule. I'm really passionate about what I do, and I want to bring these core services and products to the market. People will buy. And that's great. That is absolutely all the reasons why you should start a business and run a business. But nobody's going to buy from you if they don't know about you and if you don't know how to do sales appropriately. And there are 100 different ways to do sales. There is not one right way to do sales. What I recommend is that you find your core comfort level with sales, your kind of sales persona. For example, my colleague is very good. She wrote the book. She's very good at storytelling. When we go on sales pitches, which we often do together, she weaves together these elaborate stories on the spot of client successes that we've had and people that we've known in similar situations and personal lifestyle stories from our own past that fit the scenario. And it's amazing to watch, and it's brilliant. And I have myself stepped into that role and tried that. And it's like putting on a pair of pantyhose that you really don't feel comfortable in, and it's very awkward because it's not my sales style at all. I'm not a storyteller. I can't think that fast. I think and then I speak. She's speaking as she's thinking, and it's a beautiful thing. But my sales style is trust. I use numbers and facts and figures to build a rapport with the person I'm talking with, and then we get to a point of trust where that person can invest in the services and products that we'll provide. Knowing that about myself, which didn't come immediately, but knowing that, you try and be the person you think you should be, and do the things you think you should do. But when you step back and you see what is your core strength, what is your core strength in this scenario? And for me, it was very different than what I was looking at. When we can partner together and we have these kind of opposing but complementary styles, it works really well. And then it works well for me independently too. So if you know your sales style, anybody can be successful at sales. It's mostly being comfortable with yourself and understanding that you really do bring value to the market. If you have the ability before you start your business, I know a lot of you are already starting, probably up and running, but before you start your business, if you haven't started yet, something I strongly recommend is to do pre-sales. So go around to people that you think might buy from you. If you're just starting, say, why would you buy from me? Why would you change the service provider or product provider that you're with now? What would make you change? What are you lacking in that relationship that I could provide to you? You'll start to gain insight into what makes you different from other people. And you also have this pipeline. You have people, even if 30% of those people you talk to come over to you day one when you open the doors, that's really valuable. I know for me, it took at least 6 to 9 months to get up and running where I actually had a viable income in my business. I started day one, with pretty much nothing and nobody knowing what I was doing, and I hoped that people would come, and they didn't. And I would hustle just like Neen, and I would join the Women's Business Forum, and I was out networking, and that's what you have to do. But it's really frustrating to take that long time to get a pipeline up and running. So if you can do pre-sales and find out what will make people come to you when the doors open, that's really valuable. Third thing I want to tell you about is agreements. I told you I have a lot to tell you. I'm talking very fast, short time to tell you, but I will get through these 4 things. My colleague, when she talks about agreements with you, she might talk about something called the 4 Agreements, which is a great book that we've all read in the office. And it talks about the agreements that we make with ourselves. Agreements like, I could never run a business, I'm not smart enough. I could never run a business, I'm not organized enough. That person will never talk to me, they don't trust me in business. Or what do I have to offer that person? Or I could never play piano because I'm too clumsy. Whatever these agreements are, and we tell ourselves 100 agreements a day, they're usually made up stories that we fabricated because of our past history. I'm not going to talk about that, but it is a great book. Another thing that book talks about is never taking anything personally. And in sales, that is my #1 secret for sales. I never take a dead sale personally. Until I get to a no, please don't call me anymore, I am not interested, I call back. Because oftentimes, 99% of the time, when I've had a meaningful conversation about somebody in doing business together, and they have a contract or a proposal on the table, and I haven't heard from them in 6 months, I don't think to myself, God, I must have blown that. That must have been really about me. It must have been a terrible thing that I did. Why didn't they call me back? I knew that I was just, faking my way through that conversation, which I often think. However, when I pick up the phone 6 months later, or when I send an email, I say, hey, should I close this file? Or did you go with another provider? What's going on here? They say, you know what? We got so busy after you sent that, I didn't even show it to my associates. Send it again. I'll strike up the conversation. Now's a good time. Let me get the ball rolling again. And that may result in a sale. It may not. Another month goes by, I may follow up again. But it's often not about what's going on with me or what I've proposed, because the meaningful conversation was there. It's about what's going on with them. And if I remember that, sometimes it really does help in business. But I'm not going to talk about those kind of agreements in that book, but it is a very good book. The agreements I want to talk to you about are the paper agreements that you must have in place in order to run a successful business. Successful women do not do business with handshakes. They get contracts, they formalize them. When they provide services, they have a contract that has just enough legalese in it to make sure they're safe, but not enough legalese in it to scare away people that want to do business with them. It's a fine balance, and you would benefit from having a business lawyer kind of review your contracts or provide you with a template. And there's plenty of stuff online that you can look at. Those are the types of agreements that smart women put into place with their vendor providers. If you want a video, if you want website, with your clients when you're providing services or selling products, and that you get from people that are providing, that want to do business with you as well. Now, I'm going to make a recommendation to you that you may not agree with it and you may not want to hear, but I think it's really, really critically important from my 20 plus years in business. And that is that you may have come here today with a friend hoping to open a business with them. I have never seen a friendship partnership work in business. I have seen too many friendship partnerships in business fail. And I've seen not only the business dissolve in a very messy divorce kind of way, but I've also seen really valuable friendships lost. And I counsel you, if you need to go into business with your friend that you're here with today, or maybe you're thinking of going into business with, it can be a wonderful thing to have a buddy. It can really be a wonderful thing. But think about this. Think about each starting your own independent business and growing from there, partnering together to come to the table to sell. That's perfectly fine. Growing the business today, splitting the profits with a written paper agreement in place about the partnership, but really think twice about doing business with a friend. You can certainly work together with a friend, but think twice about a 50-50 split. I have seen businesses work when there are relatives involved. So a family business, I saw the best business partnership I saw was a pair of twins. but they shared one brain. They were basically the same person. They finished each other's thoughts. It was very creepy. And they married a set of twins, too. It was very weird, but totally nice guys, but bizarre. So you think about that. I'm not discouraging you from starting a business or from having a close friend that you can rely on in a business, but think about starting 2 independent businesses, because inevitably when there's issues of money or issues of contracts and the split needs to take place, it's so much easier. You both are in your own set ways. Money, agreements, sales, and neglect. What do I mean by neglect? Neen talked about it a little bit when she mentioned that we come into our house and we're on the phone and we say, on the phone. I see a lot of people get into business and they throw themselves in it, especially us. We're so dedicated and we're so committed to what we want to do, especially women. We have this passion for bringing what we need to have, what we see in the future as our vision to the marketplace. And we understand that we can really do good things in the world. But we throw ourselves into it. And we throw ourselves into it to the neglect of our family and our friends and our professional network. Never stop networking professionally. No matter if you'll hustle in the beginning, and when you get up and running, you'll be too busy to network, but keep those 15-minute telecoffees on the calendar. Never cancel them, never stop them, because that network is the network that will keep you going when things dip, and things always dip, and they always go great, and then they dip again. It's inevitable. It's a cycle of business. But don't neglect your family and friends. When I first started out my own business, I did this great thing where I worked a night shift. Yes, the design departments have night shifts. And I managed the night shift at Merrill Lynch from 3 to 11 p.m. And I would get up at 6 a.m. and I would start work at 7 a.m. at my home office. And I would work till 2 p.m., take a shower, and drive to work again. And I did that over and over every day. And I was married to my first husband. Now, the relationship had problems otherwise. I won't say it was because I was never around, but it certainly didn't help. And I wouldn't have done things differently. I wouldn't have not started my business. I just would have paid more attention, as Neen says, to what was going on around me and the network of family and friends that I needed to support me in the long run. But one of the key things, is that we as women do need that support. And it's great that you're all here, and all of James's advice was so brilliant. But know your money. Put 50% aside. I can't tell you, if you can't do that, if you just can't stomach it, put at least 40% aside, put it to taxes, and put it to your savings. Know about sales. Understand your sales methodology. Why will people buy from you? What is the most convincing thing about you that you can provide at the sales table? Because you will have to do sales. Many people do not hire a salesperson as their first hire in business. What about agreements? What agreements are you making with yourself? And what agreements do you need to have in place contractually to maintain a stable and a stable business that will thrive? And don't neglect your professional network, and certainly not your family and friends. Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it. I hope you learned a little bit here about what might make your business successful over the long run.